Welcome to the channel, everyone. In this video I'm going to do some welding. I'm going to weld up some holes in some sheet metal, and I'm going to start with 1/4 inch, probably go to 3/8, and then either 1/2 inch or 5/8. And I'm going to start with something heavier like a rocker panel. Then I'll move on to a fender, which is about as thin as you're going to run into these days. All right, I'm going to do some welding on this rocker panel I've got. Depends if you have access to the back side or not. And if you do have access to the back side, I've got this clamp here, and it has a copper base on it, and that's what this is made for. Clamp that over there, you can get in here and weld, and it'll puddle on top of that copper almost like it's steel, so it'll weld in really nice, but it doesn't stick to it. And here's a 1/4 inch hole, a 3/8, and that's a 5/8. I'm going to start with the 1/4 inch hole first. And that welds up real good. It welds just like you're welding on all solid steel. So I'll do the 3/8 hole next. And what I do on these holes like this, being it's almost a vertical position, I'll start in the top and then just kind of keep going back and forth and work my way down to the bottom. And that one's not bad. A little more kind of spattering there because you're running more on that copper than on a smaller hole. There's more copper exposed, but it does fill it in pretty good. I'm going to try this 5/8 hole. I've never done one that big using this clamp, but let's see how it works. Here I'm going to have to start at the bottom and slide the clamp up as I go because that clamp isn't wide enough. All right, let's take a look at this. It's actually not too bad. The bigger the hole you have, the rougher it's going to be because you're not welding actually to that clamp. You're just kind of bridging over it, and it'll start building up a weld. But it does work pretty good. And I know you're probably asking, if you have access to the back side, why not just put a backer on there? Well, a lot of times what I've run into, say you're replacing a frame rail in a unibody car or a rocker or B-pillar, and you start drilling out spot welds, and sometimes you'll drill out welds and you've gone too far and you didn't need to drill those out. And if it's on a flange like the bottom of a rocker, you can put this clamp on there, weld that hole up, and that way there is no extra piece of sheet metal like it'll be seen on the back side. Now let's see what the back side looks like. And it doesn't look bad. It's pretty flat. It does work, but it's an option if you do have access to the back side and you don't want to put a piece of sheet metal back there. On these 3 holes, I'm going to start on the far side and just work back and forth, fill it to the close side to me. So I'll do all 3 of them the same. All right, they welded in nice, and a trick to this, run a bead, wait for it to cool down just a little bit, come with another pass, and the bigger the hole, the longer it's going to take you, and as more heat it's going to build, so you need to wait a little bit longer for it to cool. But it does work. You have more chance of warping it the bigger the hole you've got to weld, but actually these come out pretty nice. So let's get something thin and see how that works. Okay, I've got this paper thin fender, and I don't even know what this is off of, some little import, pretty thin. And I took a little time, did some practice welding, different size holes. So I've got a 1/4 inch hole, a 3/8, and I'm gonna go half on this. I think 5/8, like on that rocker panel, maybe pushing it a little bit. Oh, another thing, if you notice some of those clips, they'd get a real red cast to them. I figured out what it is. It's this green welding jacket. When this thing is in front of the camera, I don't know why it does it, but it wants to change everything and get a red cast to it, so that's what it is. So I'm gonna start with the 1/4 inch first, and what I figured out doing my practice welds, I've never had to do anything this big on that thin a sheet metal. You have to just put a little dot here of weld, almost like a little tack weld, and put them in series, and that'll build up the thickness that you're welding into. And then once you start, then you can kind of keep running a bead and let it cool. The trick is I had to bump up the wire speed, which makes more heat, but if I don't, it doesn't really want to weld. But then on the other hand, as soon as you get on this thin metal, it wants to burn through. So I'm going to start with like a half moon around here of basically tack welds to give it a little bit more mass. And then I'll start running beads a little at a time and work my way around. But I usually have to stop once I get to this edge, put a few more tacks on here, and then continue on. So let's give it a try. Okay, I'm gonna have to do another take. I welded these up and I looked and the camera lost the footage. I think maybe the flash from the welding arc is giving the camera a seizure, so I'm going to back it up a little bit. And you might not be able to see how I'm welding, but you'll be able to hear, and that's more important, to hear how I put the tack welds around there, because you'll hear the gun cycling on and off. So let's try it again. Okay, let's take a look at these. All in all, not bad. The bigger the hole, a little rougher it's going to be, but those don't look bad. That's 1/2 inch hole, 3/8 and 1/4. It is doable welding these holes up on thin metal like this. Now here there's some breaks in the metal. It's fairly stiff, but like in the middle of a door, you're going to have quite a bit of warpage. Usually I think most guys are looking to weld holes up into something a little heavier, trim holes in an older vehicle or pickup trucks a little heavier. It's rare you're going to be on a thin panel where you have to fill in holes like this. Usually it's a restoration or some custom work, but even on thin stuff, it'll work. Take the time to set your welder up ahead of time. That's what all these welds were for. I really had to tweak the adjustments to get it where I wanted it, but let's take a look at the back side. And it's not too bad. Actually, everything is filled in good. Few wires sticking through, and that's just from kind of hitting the side of the weld, and the wire will skip past it and then it'll burn. But yeah, all in all, if you grind that off on the front side, it's going to be smooth. So, okay, I'm pretty much satisfied with the way these holes welded up. It's not bad. And I know a lot of guys are always worried about trying to weld in bigger holes. And you could also cool it with some water, keep a bucket of water and a rag in there handy, weld a little bit and cool around it. But yeah, it is doable. It's tricky. It takes some practice, but overall it did work pretty good. So I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Let me know if you've had struggles trying to weld holes like this and what you've done. So anyway, that'll do it. Thanks for watching.